You know when you said it went well, when you said well, did you mean shite?
Yes. I froze up and just made a tit of myself.
How much of a tit?
I said, girl power.
Hello and welcome to episode 126 of the Mark and Me podcast. As always, I'm your host Mark. Joining me on today's episode is easily one of my favourite actresses of all time. She stars and has written one of my favourite TV series of all time, and she's just genuinely one of the nicest people on the planet. Today, I'm joined by Jessica Hynes. Jessica has been on the podcast previously, and I felt it was about time that she came back and talked even more about all things TV and film. On today's episode, we get to talk all about the first time she met Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright, and put pen to paper to create my favourite TV series of all time, Spaced. But not only that, we talk about the pressures of mental health, social media, and all the other things that we've had to deal with during lockdown, and many, many more. This is an interview I'm so proud of. And normally I start the interview with the introduction of thanking them for coming on the podcast, but I felt it had to be a bit different because before we actually started the official recording, me and Jess were just talking about all different things, and when I listened back I thought this is too good to leave out, so I haven't. You're getting the full, uncut, unedited, actual conversation between me and Jess, and I couldn't be prouder. I absolutely love Jess, and to have her on the show again is a dream come true, and I can't wait for you guys to hear it. But in true typical Mark and Me fashion, you know the score by now. I do like to touch base and talk about my last episode. So on episode 125, I was joined by two guests. I was joined by the amazing Andy Collier and Tor Meehan, and we got to talk all about their horror Sacrifice. It was a great interview, and I've been really touched and really appreciate all the comments and feedback that you guys have given me. And the people that have then gone and checked out this and fell in love with this horror is a dream come true and the ultimate compliment for this podcast, so thanks. But as I said, today I'm joined by someone very special. Jess is someone that I admire and absolutely love. So I think the best thing to do now is to stop talking about it and get straight to the interview. So here is me and Jessica Hynes talking all things film, TV, and much, much more. How's things been? I spoke to you a few years ago, and then obviously the world went a bit crazy.
Indeed. Yeah, everything's been kind of, everything's been about just adjusting to the situation, really, which isn't a situation that you can kind of permanently adjust to because it seems like it's constantly changing. But then just adjusting to the uncertainty, I suppose. And, my kids are at a stage where they're just sort of transitioning out of home. So my son's already at uni and my daughter's about to go to uni, and then my youngest is doing GCSEs. So it's very much been about trying to sort of help them adjust to the situation by just being as kind of supportive, as consistent as possible. Just keeping things nice and calm and happy as far as possible.
Last time I spoke to you, you were driving in the car. I remember doing the interview and you were like driven somewhere, and it was good, but I was like, the sound quality was a bit like
wasn't good.
And I was like, we're going to do some more. We'll do it again when the time's right.
So how's your podcast going? Are you getting lots of listeners?
Yeah, it's going really well. So skip to the end, the movie one, which we gave up at the end of last year just because it'd been 5 years. We got invited to the BAFTAs. We got Film for Podcast of the Year, 12 million downloads. We were like, is there anything else we can do? Like, we've just exceeded everything we've ever done. So we put on a live event, which was our big live sellout event, and it sold out in 15 minutes.
Wow.
So we could keep going, but then we just thought
let's go out while it's good. Like before Life on the Road with Ricky Gervais, when The Office did 2 seasons, it was enough, and then Ricky Gervais walked away and left it as it was, and it wasn't like 6 to 11 where you're like, oh, I don't want this anymore. But we came back for a one-off special for lockdown, and it got to #1 straight away and it's done really well. But with Mark and Me, the one-on-ones, I've had a great couple of years. I had Mads Mikkelsen come on, which was great. He was really fun. Anthony Hopkins came on.
Oh wow!
Crazy. He did a one-off. I don't know how it happened, but I got him as a world exclusive podcast. So I don't know how that happened, but I won't question it too much. It was definitely him.
Yeah.
Alex Winter came on for Bill and Ted, which was cool. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah.
But it's still a hobby. I'm still working as a fucking recruiter, doing an office job to give me 9 till 5 jobs Monday to Friday, so I can pay the bills and do all the normal stuff. But I'm still in love with it. I still absolutely adore it, and I love speaking to people. So
I guess you were kind of really at the vanguard of the whole kind of podcast revolution because the last few years podcasts have just gone crazy. Everyone's doing them.
If you haven't got a podcast now, people are like, you haven't got a podcast. What?
Yes, you're so right. That's exactly right.
So when's yours starting? Surely you've got a podcast out. What's going on?
Well, sometimes I sort of think, oh, I wonder what, I think you have to think, what's really missing.
Yeah.
Is there a podcast hole, that I could fill? And I don't know if there is, I don't think, if I did one, it would be purely for my own amusement.
Yeah.
Not because it needs to happen. And I just haven't I enjoy podcasts. I very much enjoy Athletico Mints. You make me a fucking porchy, which is one of our favourite catchphrases. And I really, obviously, like everyone, love the Blind Boy podcast. And I think if I could do a podcast as good as Blind Boy, I think I would probably do it. But I just don't think I could. I would worry about my ability to be consistent. I would worry about my ability to do it every single week.
That's the problem.
Particularly because when I start working and filming, I'm away, and I'm just not able always to do it. I probably could, but it's just
do it.
It's the fact that if I'm filming and I'm working and I've got like 3 hours left on a week, and I know that I'm supposed to be doing a podcast, but I haven't, FaceTime my family, and I need to do that. I'm going to be thinking, I don't. Like on top of everything else, I don't want to, so I think that's probably, making, recording something that you've enjoyed doing once or twice does not a podcast make. And I think what you really, really need is that sort of longevity and consistency. And I think with my job and going away and being away, and I don't think I could do that. But I really love podcasts. I've
done 5 years now, and what I do is I have blocks where I go crazy and do like 12 interviews in a week, and then that keeps me going for like the next 3 months. That's the tip behind it.
Oh, that's the secret. So you don't act. Oh, of course, you're so clever.
That's the genius.
See, there I am. It never like I'm so literal. It never even occurred to me.
You want to record it on the Friday and then release.
You could do all of them. You could do enough podcasts in a weekend for sort of 8 weeks. I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I'm okay. I've got about 22 sitting on my computer right now, ready to be edited for the next 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. So
I can just pick. I'll do this one this week, and then this film's coming out.
Yeah, it's not live.
Yeah.
Hashtag it's not live. Yeah. Then again, you look at there's something great about podcasts that are reflexive and also reacting to what's kind of going on in the world.
But what you can do is, if it's an interview, at the intro I can be like, hey everyone, well, as you know, Donald Trump left this week, and everyone thinks, wow, he's recorded it this week, and then he's talked about Trump leaving, so it's relevant. But really, that's been sat on my computer for 4 months.
Wow. But I'm all fine. I think it's nice when you feel like your friends are okay, because it's difficult to always know if they are, and probably the less you hear from them, the more you worry. And I don't do social media anymore. I'm not on any kind of social media because I feel like it's a little you can't always tell how people are on social media, and I think it's a bit of a can be a bit of a bum steer. If you see someone on Facebook, you can either think that you're connecting with people, or at least people are connecting with you, but in reality, the actual kind of one-on-one contact of friendship isn't really happening. And I think that's why it can be quite dangerous. So it's always good to know, when you have kind of good, proper conversations and contact with good friends in real time, like on a telephone or on a Zoom call, it's really good to know when your friends are okay.
No one's going to post a picture on Instagram of themselves crying and depressed saying, I really need help. It's all about, look, I'm lovely.
I think they also do that. And I think that also then the response isn't always good either, like, because it's a sort of general response to a problem that needs perhaps more of a specific remedy, I think we're all, in a place where connection and support, it's more important than ever that it feels real. And I think that it can sometimes not feel real on social media, which is why people can end up feeling a little bit empty and lost and lonely. But yeah, I really recommend coming off social
That's what
media.
I was going to say. I tried to look for you on Twitter. There's something the other day about space on. I was going to tag you in it, and I was like, oh, she's not there anymore.
No, I recommend it. I mean, I think what happens is your friendship group becomes immediately like either nothing or very, very small. But then as you go on, you realize that, your friends are still there. They're just you just talk to them, and then you can talk to them about what's happening in your life and hear about what's happening in their lives. And it's a completely different, it's a completely different feeling and different experience. And I think I'm really grateful that I haven't been on social media in this time, that I've just been able to be in contact with my friends and talking and feel connected, even though we've kind of been separate. You just realize that, probably don't have that many friends, one or two, that's enough. And everyone else is, it's nice. But, a friend is somebody you can call up, and lean on and get support from, and equally who feels they can do the same to you. And so it's, I think if you come off social media and you realize you don't have anyone like that, it's not a reason to be on social media. It's a reason to not be on social media and actually find some real friends.
I literally had this conversation with my girlfriend the other night, and I was saying that there's a problem with social media, is that if I now go and see someone for a drink, which I can't do right now, but if I did, all the stuff about them anyway. So you're not going to be like, so what have you been up to? Because you've seen on Facebook that they've gone on holiday. One sec.
Or you think you do. You think you do. You think you know them, because it's a performance. It's a performance of information. It's a performance of self that's kind of curated, for the purpose of kind of, viewing and observing, and a performance of self is not real self. It's not actually who anyone really is. So it's much nicer not knowing and calling someone and being able to find their news and hear how they are, because then they're not curating themselves in such a public way. They're talking to you about how they are, and that is not only rewarding as the person sharing the information, but also rewarding as the person receiving the information, because it's intimate in a rewarding way, in a friendship way, which Facebook absolutely is not, because there's this general information that you're generally sharing with everyone. And there's nothing specific about it. It's not like, and then if you broke it down, you'd probably realize that some of the things you do post, you've got someone in mind.
Yeah.
That's the bizarre insanity of it. There's someone in mind when you post that thing, and you kind of find yourself going, oh, that person hasn't responded to that. Isn't that funny? Instead of thinking, I should share that thing specifically with that person, and then we can talk about it. It's an odd illusion, I think, all of it. But it can also be fun and entertaining. I'm sure. I know that. I'm just glad not to be on it myself.
The older I get, the more I realize I have less mates and more true friends. So I'm nearly 40 now, and I'm at the point where I used to think, God, I need loads of friends. I need to always have my phone beeping and WhatsApp conversations and texts and all this to make sure that I feel okay. But now I'm like, I would rather 4 or 5 solid, good friends that I've got really good bonds with, that we can talk, and if we don't talk, it's fine, and we reconnect straight away, even if it's been 6 months, than 30 mates that just have the same chit chat all the time, you know. I never feel lonely with it. I feel fine. I feel like I need just a stronger, smaller amount of people that are more worthwhile.
Yeah. Well, it's just the people that you love, you know, and you often can't choose that, you know. It's just who comes into your life, and I think when you have a more intimate one-on-one relationship with the people in your life and less of a sort of general one, your relationships improve anyway, and so your quality of life improves, and how you feel improves, because you've got better and more realer contact with people, and then those people feel valued too, because you've singled them out. Like my children think it's weird when I call people up on the telephone. They just think, oh, it's so weird.
It's like, true though. There's memes. I see people saying, like, I was sat there the other night and my phone rung, and I was like, what the hell is someone doing? And I'm like, I like talking to people. Hence why I'm here now on the podcast. But I do like talking. That element of talking, having a proper conversation's gone, because people just expect it to be a text or a tweet, or I don't know. It's kids do literally now never talk. Yeah. It's all Snapchat.
I know they say talking, because they say, but it's not talking, it's texting. I'm talking to them. It's like, no, you're not. You're actually just texting. But yeah.
I suppose we should do a bit of an interview, but I'm keeping all this in, by the way. I like it. So, Jess, thank you for joining me again on the Mark and Me podcast.
It's a pleasure. Lovely to be here.
It's been a couple of years and it's gone quite quick. A lot of stuff's happened, but there's been a new audience to the podcast, and obviously it's grown and evolved over a few years. And there'll be some people that didn't listen to the first one. So for those people, there will be a couple of questions that we discussed last time, but as we're not now driving down a motorway, we can sit and talk properly and there's no background sound. I do want to ask the question about when you were growing up and what it was that made you fall in love with film and TV. So
wow.
You
know, compared to our parents, who sort of barely had television, you know, they had these kind of huge sort of wooden tubes in the corner of their rooms, and cinema, obviously. We were the generation who were really exposed to a massive amount of kind of, not obviously compared to now, but a massive amount of British and American, and obviously kind of with Monkey, Korean or Chinese television. I think that was Chinese. And I think that those of us who spent a lot of time watching television, you know, it sort of shaped us. It shaped our kind of cultural and sort of it shaped our kind of cultural identity, I suppose, as much as it educated us, as much as it invited us to analyze it. And I think that obviously to varying degrees, children watch different amounts of television. I, you know, watched a lot of television, similar to kind of Simon and Edgar. I was an absolute sort of avid consumer of everything that was on television, wanted to go to the cinema whenever I could. I think I remember when we got a VHS, and the kind of idea that we could record things and then rewatch them was exciting, or that we could kind of get a video of a favorite show and then rewatch it. And all of that was, you know, kind of exciting. And it was just something that I was instantly captivated by. The idea of just sitting and watching something, being entertained in that way, was it was instant. It was an instant hit. I suppose actually kind of when I think about the sort of shows that really stayed with me and that shaped me, I was thinking about this the other day. I was thinking about because there was a point at which I would begin to kind of watch, but then also begin to analyze. So I would kind of watch and observe things, how they were constructed, and then I would kind of deconstruct them in that way, and then I would kind of reconstruct them, and just think about what I was watching. So I remember very clearly having a thought about the Rockford Files, and I was asked about this recently. Somebody was writing a book about Shaun of the Dead, and they were doing a chapter on Spaced, and I remember watching the Rockford Files, which I absolutely loved, and watching James Garner every week, and he was really at the vanguard of kind of revolutionary television. Every week there was a fantastic, intelligent, dynamic, independent female character, always very glamorous, but really not the kind of usual sort of sort of decorative or kind of two-dimensional female that you saw far less in cinema. Cinema was much more advanced in that way, but on television, characters were much more two-dimensional, and particularly women. And I remember observing, even in the Rockford Files, thinking sort of right at the end, every single episode, this glamorous woman who Rockford would have helped, they'd be walking down the street kind of laughing together, alluding to the fact that obviously that they were kind of going to become special friends. And I remember thinking, oh, she doesn't know. It's going to be someone else next week. It's going to be for her. Doesn't know. And
no idea.
And I remember, actually no idea. And I remember having that thought and then thinking, God, I'd love to be in the Rockford Files. I would love to be on his team. Maybe I could be like his kid. Maybe I could be like his niece who was sort of, orphaned, who needs somewhere to live. And I could kind of come and help him with his cases and drink coffee in his little kind of trailer and be his sidekick. And I remember very clearly wanting that, wanting to be that, but not wanting to be the transient female. And I think those kinds of desires to be on television that happened to me quite early were definitely the seeds of my creative evolution, and ultimately to writing and creating and being in space. It was a primal desire of me to be kind of Rockford's sidekick. And I also kind of remember thinking that watching other shows, things like the A-Team, and feeling very much that the character that I would most probably have identified with would for example be Murdoch. That's who I felt I mostly was like. There was no part of me that could identify with these sort of otherworldly, extraordinary sort of 70s beauties, these, because I was a child, so I didn't identify with a woman. She seemed like another species to me, and certainly not someone that I could kind of relate to and see myself in. So I remember thinking, how could I ever be kind of like Murdoch on television? Is there a world in which that is possible, and which, how I feel, which is the sort of, is there a world in which I could kind of be Murdoch? Because I felt no part of me was kind of inspired by that sort of generic female, that extremely pretty female. I was thinking about that in terms of the Goonies, and thinking how I would have been Chunk in the Goonies. That was who I was in the Goonies. I wasn't the generic pretty girl who, we don't really know her beyond that she wore a kind of, a sort of a preppy kind of sports jacket, and she was the pretty girl. And there was obviously, Martha Plimpton, who was amazing and probably closer than many other characters to one that I could relate to. But even she, for me, was gorgeous and impossibly sort of lovely. I did not identify with her as a child. I didn't feel that she was me. So I think from a very early age there was something missing on television from my perspective. A representation that wasn't sexual. I think that was key as well. My desire to be on television were formed very much from a childlike perspective, which I think comes across in Space. That sort of joyful, very asexual fun that they have is childlike, which is maybe why people kind of enjoy it, because there's something joyous about it. But I suppose what I loved about television was its escapism. But ultimately, I suppose, having grown up watching these shows and analyzing them as I did, it gave me a kind of a groundwork and a framework from which to evolve my own world on television. And I think, I guess I realized that I was never going to be offered those, but no one was ever going to come along and say, because I understood from observing the world around me, particularly on television, but also the world around me, that people would not, that there seemed to be such a very, very fixed idea about how females were represented, how narratives played out, and it was easy to see without much investigation that shows were more often than not told from the perspective of the narrator. That seemed obvious to me. And so if the narrator was always a certain type of person, then the perspective would always be of that person, and so in order to actually change the cultural landscape, I would have to put my perspective and my experiences on television, and not just borrow then kind of old tropes and formats, but actually do it with absolute truth and kind of clarity. And so I suppose, that's why and how I ended up making Space. And I remember I'd been thinking about it probably for about a year before I actually put pen to paper and sat down, because I'd been writing sketches before and characters, and I knew I wanted to write, I didn't want to write sketch characters. I wanted to write full characters that had real kind of journeys and story arcs and had adventures, and also make a TV program that was sort of electrifyingly different and that would stand out. I remember thinking, I think Spaced was sort of happening right at the beginning of the multi-platform revolution, and thinking even then it would have to be really dynamic and look different and look kind of colorful for it to survive and kind of shine out, when there was going to be so much television to choose from. I remember thinking that, but yeah, so I suppose I love television when it makes me when it entertains me. And I'm quite I recently watched The Queen's Gambit, and
so good.
It was a revelation to me, because I think it was the first time, like, that's what I've been waiting for, all these years, to a degree. But even then, there's always still those there's still that kind of feminine trope and the very beautiful lead, which shouldn't detract from her. She was perfect. No. The show was extraordinary,
so good.
But for me, that to explore the perspective of a flawed female whose main purpose is not to be a kind of object of sexual desire or titillation, who has a passion that transcends any kind of conventional female desire, but is about her kind of absolute pure desire to be a great chess player, is shockingly rare, and that was amazing. Actually, I remember watching it because it just popped up on my feed, and I saw that it was, I thought, and it literally I think it'd come on like that day, and there'd not been any press about it. And I just was watching quite a lot of Netflix, and I was like, oh, that looks quite good, Queen's Gambit, I'll give it a go, chess player, sounds good. And then just watched it all, was blown away, and was like, literally, I was like, oh God, people need to know about, people don't know, people need to know. I was like, I actually emailed the director. I've never done that in my life, because it was like, that's what I've been sort of angling towards, wanting to do, either developing things or wanting to do, is this put living, breathing women in an extraordinary context, and for it not to be about sex in any way. I wanted to, I was like, and there it is. And I sent him an email and said, what you have done is amazing, and I want to thank you, and you've inspired me to kind of, you know, carry on and keep going, because really that's the heart of, you know, what Spaced was for me was creating an environment and an opportunity for me to be Murdoch, and for me to not be replaced every week. And you know, it's sometimes over the years it's hard, because I think a lot of people retrospectively look at it, and from the audience then that Simon and Edgar and Naira and Nick gathered with their future projects, I think, which was kind of male, I suppose. I mean, it's both male and female, but perhaps more male than the audience of Space. I think retrospectively, I think a lot of people, you know, sort of assumed there was a male influence in that show, and that my influence was the female one, but they really didn't understand that I wrote Spaced for the kind of the passionate TV watching kind of male that I was in, you know, and that the character of Daisy was one dimension, but that I wrote Tim for Simon because I wanted him to do it, but also because I wanted to explore how the liberation of being that character, to write for him in the same way that Simon liked to write for Daisy, I liked to write for Tim, and all the character and the storylines and the comic book references were my passions. And I think it was just assumed that it wasn't, because people's assumptions are often clouded by their own, I suppose, sort of ideas about what women like and don't like, and what men like and don't like, and what women are capable of or not. And so I remember, you know, when Spaced came out, I you know, there was some graphic novel companies who sent comics, and they sent them all to Simon. They didn't send any to me, and I loved 8 Ball. I loved, you know, Love and Rockets. I loved The Preacher. I loved going to comic shops. I loved, like, the whole Bilbo Baggins thing was, I loved going to comics. I loved writing all of Space. I loved writing, and yet it just was an assumption that wasn't my, you know, that wasn't my passion, or that wasn't my kind of contribution. But I sort of accepted it, really. I mean, I felt there was nothing I could do, really.
No. People listen now. We're sending you loads of comics. You have Forbidden Planet ringing now, going, "Oh,
I hope so. I hope so. Oh man, that would be amazing." But yeah, I think, you know, I think I was really interested in. I think because I grew up in the 80s, and I grew up with a very clever, very intelligent, very analytical single mom, and I was very aware of a narrative in kind of the 80s feminist narrative, which is it's a separate, and it's not all feminist. I'm not making any generalizations about feminists. You know, feminists are as diverse as any group of people. Really, really, feminists, I suppose, are just women who are strong and who are able to sort of express their opinions, really. You know, that's really, and that can be any opinion. You do not, it's not political or sort of national in any, there's no homogeneity in feminism. But what I observed in a particular type of feminism was a sort of separatist victimhood, which I was really not into. I wasn't into that rhetoric, and I observed it, and I felt that there was something very fundamentally flawed about that. You know, I was much more interested in how women and men come together. I mean, I kind of felt men were sort of magical. I loved men. I mean, men were rare and transitory in my upbringing, and I had a sort of, you know, I idolized them out of all proportion. I loved men. I loved male culture. I loved what men were into. I loved, you know, and that, I think, is also kind of why I felt I wanted to create a utopia or a dynamic, or envision a universe in which you could have a show where males and females are equally represented, and there wasn't a kind of a lead and then a sort of a female support. Just going back to the Rockford Files, somebody who just is interchangeable every week, or somebody who's just kind of the generic pretty one, but actual real, proper, complicated kind of soulmates who were just thrashing out, but inhabiting the same space and the same world, on equal footing. I kind of wasn't into the idea of sort of gender ghettos, of having just a female show or a male show. I thought, well, we live in this world together. It's undeniable. It's inevitable. We are, fearfully designed to a degree to kind of collide and collude, and there should be a way of creating a world in which that can happen on television, and for viewers to feel represented and not kind of maligned. Because I really, and I really enjoyed that part of constructing it. I enjoyed creating that balance and wanting that balance, and that was kind of vital for me, and then creating all the opportunities for my sort of Murdoch to do anything I wanted within the confines, within the kind of magical world of the show. I could not only do anything I wanted as Daisy, but I could do anything I wanted as Tim, or as Brian, or as Bilbo, because I was writing them and I was writing that world. And that was the liberation for me. That was an incredible kind of explosion of creative liberation for me, and to be able to do that with Simon, who was so amazing and brilliant, and Edgar, who was just really into it, was extraordinary.
Well, you must have all been on the same page, because you accomplished, I believe, everything that you've just said, because it's never a show about Tim, and Daisy's there, or it's a show about Daisy, but she also lives with Tim. It's all about the world between those two, and everything you did on that show is shared. You were best mates. There was a hint of romance. There's a hint of are they not going to get together. There's always the tease, and as a viewer, now I'm hearing you talk, it was okay, so this is a chance to be Murdoch, this is a chance at moments to be Chunk from the Goonies, this is a chance to be one of the Lost Boys. This is her chance to be Billy from Gremlins. She's getting this chance to be these people.
That was absolutely it. That was it. That was absolutely it.
And it also explains why you had the 18.
The Karate Kid.
Yeah. Well, you were talking about Queen's Gambit.
Jack Nicholson. Queen's Gambit. Yeah.
You beautifully, elegantly summarized it, and I recently voted it as one of my top shows of the year, on the top 5 of the year on Skip to the End. I said,
did you email the director weeping though?
No, I should have.
Okay.
I was saying how difficult it is to try and sell it to someone, because if someone says to you, what's it about? And you're like, well, it's about a girl that wants to become the #1 chess player in the world. So I said, this is how I put it on the episode, is basically it's Karate Kid with chess with a female lead.
Yeah, it
is. You have Mr.
What do you think of Cobra Kai? Are you enjoying Cobra Kai?
It's incredible. I haven't watched series 3 yet, because I don't want it to be over, because when it is, I've got to wait like a year. So it's that thing of like, do I watch it all and binge it like I did with Queen's Gambit and all the other new shows I've watched recently, where I've been like, Ozark looks good, and I watched it all in a week, and I was like, oh Christ, like I've got no more to watch now. So I
don't think they're doing any more Ozark either, are they?
One more. That's
are they doing another series? Phew.
Next year, yeah, and then it will all be wrapped up. But yeah, Queen's Gambit was like, it was your opportunity to be Daniel LaRusso. Daisy, Daniel LaRusso, finally.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's been 25 years, which blows my mind. When I saw, last year there was some sort of celebrations to celebrate it, and you were doing a Q&A and the BFI stuff, and Edgar was doing lots of stuff in Empire magazine and stuff like this. I couldn't believe it had been 25 years, to be honest. I thought, Christ. And what I wanted to know was, you were talking all then about the writing and what you wanted to get out of it, and what you tried to give to the character that you kind of missed out on, and what TV's missed out on.
Yeah.
Was Edgar and Simon exactly on the same page from day one? No.
They didn't know.
No, not
they
at all.
They knew nothing of that. they were just like, this is great. They didn't think about it.
Lovely. That's amazing.
They were just like, they didn't, and it never, it all just was like, it was like a train, so, no.
Never.
So no.
Do they now? Do they have any idea now, or is it still a secret?
I don't know if we've ever really talked about it that in depth.
Yeah.
I don't think we've just had a chance to talk about it that in depth, really.
No.
Yeah, but I think yeah, no, I mean, Simon, I think he once said about series 2, because he was saying, because I knew then, because Simon and Edgar's Venn diagram really crossed over on zombie movies, and the rest is history. You know, that when they started collaborating, and in, you know, I think it was episode 3, and there was that moment with the kind of, you know, Resident Evil, and they kind of got the scripts out and the guns out, and they were just like, that was just like love, and they were like, oh my god, I love zombies. I mean, you know, it was like, that was creative, you know, synchronicity, and that was just destiny, you know. They were going to go and make a brilliant, amazing, you know, zombie film together, which, as we all know, they did. And I think that as that was happening, I felt like that was probably going to mean that space was probably going to kind of just, you know, wind down, I suppose. I felt like that. And I remember in the second series, I'd written a lot of plot with Simon and Nick.
Yeah.
A lot. And Simon had sort of said, he said at the end, he said, I've just realized, you know, we don't hang out as much in series 2. I was like, well, we do. He said, no, we're not really. I was like, I know, well, you know, it just seemed to make sense, you know, having Nick in the flat and, you know, you two together, you know. And I suppose in a way, you know, it was, I could feel that was the way it was kind of going, and that was that, you know, that was okay, you know, that was okay.
But you went off traveling, so you can't moan.
Yeah, I went off to Asia.
Yeah, to find
I went off to Asia.
Yeah,
you know.
to learn karate. Yeah,
to learn karate, exactly. But yeah, I, you know, I think what was great is that they didn't really question it. You know, I've often thought it's, you know, I've often thought there was a moment where I remember thinking it was like I'd sort of, you know, having a fascination, as I did have, with, you know, particular kind of play. You know, I used to hang out in a little gang of girls who, and our favorite thing was to be mistaken for boys. Like, that was our goal. You know, we wanted to look, we were, you know, just adventuring around, you know, and if someone said, "Oi, you boys, get down off there," you know, that was like results. You know, that was our mission. So I suppose this was, in a way, I felt like, wow, I am now, you know, totally in. We're all playing pirates. Nobody's noticed that I'm not a boy, and I'm just gonna carry on until they do. But perhaps I was a little, you know, I thought maybe if I was going to be reimagined as a you know, as if we were all kind of sort of playing pirates, perhaps I was the one who was, in my fervor, perhaps a little bit too intense. You know what I mean? He was hitting a little bit too hard with the sword.
Yeah, you need to be quiet there, otherwise they're going to hear you. You carry on, you'll get away with it.
I was perhaps getting overexcited just at the thought of being included, that I was maybe, I was getting too ferocious, and I was too like, oh, you know, and so you know, drew attention to myself maybe, and you know, and then it was like, hold on a minute, you shouldn't even be here. No.
Yeah, you at that point, you're not a goonie, you're sloth, and you're hitting your chest, and you're.
That's exactly right. Yeah. That's exactly right.
Stay like Data, or you stay like Mouth, and you just play it safe.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what bit you.
I know, but you know, you live and learn. You live and learn.
Exactly. Always stay like one, never turn to sloth. That's the moral of life. That's what it's got to be.
If only I'd had that on a t-shirt.
I know.
25 years ago.
Well, I reckon right now Edgar and Simon have no idea, and they just went with it because they've found more excuses to use different movie references and recreate certain scenes. So we'll keep it between us.
Yeah, just don't. I mean, it's fine. They don't need to know. They don't need to know.
They're not going to listen to this.
I think they would really enjoy the Rockford Files analogy. I think they would love to know that I'd cast myself as a kind of Murdoch. Yeah. I think Edgar would enjoy that.
You know the question,
because we were all very similar in that way. Yeah. That was the joy of it. You know, that I think that, you know, our spirits were very similar in that sense. And you know, And we were just loving it, you know. And once we were kind of in that zone of play, we were in our element. I mean, although the filming was hard, as I'm sure you know and have kind of discussed, you know, at length, it was just you know, it was transcendent. And I feel like as well, I was thinking about the particular kind of joy it was, and it was childlike in that way, that where I remember the freedom of being in the kind of silent gunfight scene that I felt, of just actually still maybe just being rumbled, but still there and just like in it, and just the absolute transcendent joy of that. It was like, you know, just thrilling. So yeah, it was but we all were, I mean, we were just having the best time.
It looks incredible. Like I can't imagine that it would ever feel like, oh god, have we got to do that scene again? It was like, yes, let's get
that was a really good day.
It looked great. So you just talked then about how you knew that when anyone ever says to me about Shaun the Dead, I say, look, it's Space the movie. It's, you know, it's what was going to come from space. It's the natural progression. It's the zombie episode, and we get to see Edgar and Simon and Nick again, and we get to see you, which is great. You know, it was like, oh, there's all the characters in Marsha. It was brilliant. Mm-hmm. Did you kind of feel like, and it's the question that all I ever get after I recorded the first interview with you is, ask her about series 3. Like, should there have been a series 3? In Jess's head, was there already going to be a series 3? Or was it always kind of like Ricky Gervais in The Office, a 2-season, that's it, no more, wrap it up nicely, keep people always speculating and thinking? Or did you think, bollocks, there was a lot more to tell about Daisy?
I feel like what happened was meant to happen exactly as it happened. That's how I feel about it. I don't feel like you know, that you know, I feel like, you know, once Simon and Edgar had started to collaborate and write Shaun of the Dead, which was absolutely a fusion of their passion and love of kind of zombie films, and really honesty was not mine, you know. Like I have massive kind of interest in sort of postmodern movie heroes, you know, 80s kids films, TV, you know. I'm into loads of different things, and things that they're not into I am, but like zombie films was never my thing, you know. It wasn't like I was like, oh my god, I need to do this. I wasn't, you know, like, I mean, so I feel like that was their trajectory, you know. In that moment when they met, it was like, and that creativity should work like that. Definitely. You know, you shouldn't kind of feel like you have to do something because
never feel, you know,
you know, you know, and they were passionate, and they were driven, and they were you know, and just so excited that they were going to make this film, you know, and they were going to go into movies, and they had an idea, it sort of forged, and they made it, and it was amazing, and a massive kind of, now has become like a just a zombie cult classic, and that, which is exactly what they had imagined. And I think that's kind of how, you know, that's how it was meant to happen, and it's good that it happened, and that they found that trajectory and they followed it, and it was a success, and it was everything they wanted it to be. So I feel like, no, I feel like
it was,
you know, that was just that was just that's just how things rolled at that point, you know.
I get a lot of questions. A lot of people are asking, all the time people are saying, will we ever get a series 3? Like, would we ever? And it's like, well, Simon's filming Mission Impossible 926 right now. I don't
bless him. He worked so hard. I to be honest, you know, like, I feel like I have said, I think before, I did think, oh great, now I'll just be playing great comedy goofy roles for the rest of my life, and to be honest, I haven't, you know, like that. No. That, like, I had to create that opportunity for myself, and if I ever wanted to do it again, I would have to create it again for myself, because it's not something that comes, you know, that it doesn't just happen. You know, you have to make it happen. So I mean, I'm working on things, but not necessarily thinking about that. But I think I love those characters.
Yeah.
I love all those characters. And I feel like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like I'm sort of just beginning to think about kind of creating shows that I will have fun doing, and doing that at the moment. I'm also, since I directed something in 2017, and I just really am so into that. Like, I love directing. It's so much fun, and it's so rewarding writing something and then also getting to direct it. It's the best. I think there's nothing better than being able to actually create something, visualize something, and then actually bring it to the screen.
The fight was fucking awesome as well. Let's just say that.
Thanks.
It was fucking beautiful, and the way that, I don't know if it's my expectations. Maybe it's a bit obnoxious, but I always expect a debut to be a bit like, a debut direction. It was a full length. I always think, what's it going to be like? Let's see what it's like, especially when actors have a go at it. And I was like, yes, Jess, this is fucking ace. I fucking love it.
Oh, good. Well, I'll tell you a fact. The budget of the fight, of the 90-minute fight that was made in 2017 was the same as a half an hour of Spaced that was made in 1999.
Christ.
So the cost of half an hour of Spaced was the same as the budget of my film, which actually, I suppose when you look at it in terms of setups and everything, you can kind of see. But I think if I do another one, I want to try to, position I was so thrilled to get a chance to just direct something and make something that I just kind of jumped at it. But I think if I do it again, I need to make sure that I get a better budget. But I loved actually working on the hoof in that way.
Didn't you do it in only a few weeks as well? Wasn't it like 12 days?
Yeah, 12 days. And actually there's a real kind of liberation in working that quickly, because you kind of just you have to let go of a lot of things.
Yeah.
And actually it's a great discipline to do that, to just let go of things and to just put your faith in your idea and in the story, and to every day know that you have a little bag of moments and shots, that you're really aware of what they are, and that that within your day, if you have that bag of shots, everything else is a bonus. And I think when you're making low budget things, that's my approach, and I really, really, I just enjoyed it, and it felt like it came at a point in my life where I just was thinking that would never happen. But to have that kind of much fun, and that much creative, freedom to just, make a film in that amount of time, and have the freedom as well because it's a low budget film, like there was a moment where we found out that Rona Mitra was coming to play Amanda, but she was only coming for one day.
That's it.
We were going to have her for one day. So we had that information. So I was like, I got 2 days filming under my belt, and I'd got my bag of shots. The bag of shots I knew I would need in the edit. I got them both for those 2 days. And then I knew that the day with Rona was coming up, and I felt like, as it stands, it's unachievable.
Yeah.
It's unachievable with the scenes that we have, with what we have, scheduled. It's going to be impossible to complete that day as it stands right now.
Right.
And I remember saying to Ryan Edelson, who was the DOP, we're not going to be able to complete that day as it is. He was like, yeah, no, I know. I was like, so we're going to have to think of something else. And he was like, okay, so what are we going to do?
Pen and paper.
And it's just like 20 minutes in the sort of 40-minute lunch break on these really, really tight filming days.
Christ.
And then it was just like, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what we're going to do. That scene, you know, this is what's going to happen, because this is what needs to happen. This is where we're going to be at. And this is emotionally what needs to happen in that moment. And in that point of the narrative that scene serves, these are the most important things to resolve.
Yeah.
And this is the most important thing to tell the audience. So once I'd kind of condensed it down, I was like, right, so just got rid of everything we didn't need, worked out what we did need. And I said to Ryan, this is how we're going to do it. And I sort of mentioned Kurosawa. I mean, like, as if we're talking about a little park in Folkestone. And I'm like, Kurosawa, Ryan, like Kurosawa through the foliage. Yeah. But he was like on it. He was like, oh yeah, great. I was like, because I was saying, because I knew the location, I was like, we're going to be able to get some really nice high shots, you know, through the foliage. He was like totally into that. And so the thing is, we were lucky because we could literally just go to the producer who was counting the days. We said, right, we just need we only need this person and that person. We don't need her, we don't need him, you know, this is what we're doing. He was like, all right, fine, you know. But that, when you're dealing with such a low budget, that's the sort of, you know, and that's actually really fun. That's actually really fun because it's much less precious. And we were able to film in this you know, amazing tunnel on one other day. It was the same day with Rona actually. And the weather was amazing. Like, we had a really, really strong wind, bright sunshine. So there was trees. So the sound of the trees was really dominating. And the dapple of the sunshine coming through the trees was really sort of noticeable. And it was really beautiful. It was kind of like the whole kind of sound of the trees and the wind sort of energized the scene. It kind of really made it, it gave it a lovely dimension that you could write, but you could never guarantee, you know, you'd no idea how the weather was going to be. But anyway, we had a beautiful day for it. But because we had such a short time to do the scene, like when we were coming around and covering both angles, you know, and I would always cover myself last because, you know, it's just easier because then I know exactly where I need to be and what I'm going to say. And it meant I could just focus on the other actors before I did that. And if we'd been doing it in a conventional time frame, in a conventional way of filming, you can guarantee that within a few hours, that wind would have dropped, the sun would have moved, everything would have turned around and everything would have looked and felt different. We would have somehow tried to kind of manufacture that same energy of wind and light. But when you're working that quickly, you kind of can capture that, you know, and it cuts together. And there's absolutely no problem with wind and light continuity because we did it in such a short amount of time.
Yeah.
And so there are, without being annoyingly positive, which is one of my worst qualities, it makes me seem insincere, apparently, according to my children. It was a really positive of filming that quickly. You know.
And are you now?
Well, I am. I am. I'm absolutely writing it. I'm writing it. I'm loving it. And I'm now, having felt really like, I feel like, I mean, you know, I don't know, you've probably talked to other people about it on the podcast, but right now, obviously, you know, I mean, you know, it's actually, it makes me feel like crying when I think about, you know, I mean, there's so much that's going on in the world at the moment.
Yeah. It's
difficult to really even begin to kind of get worried about cinemas.
Yeah.
But I think it's beginning to dawn on everybody that this pandemic, combined with the kind of multi-platform model of distribution and production, there's a very real chance that cinemas may not come back.
It's terrifying.
And that's, you know, there are many other worse things to worry about, but of
course, but it's
just like when you really engage with that, it's just really, apart from all of the other things that are so sad, it just makes me feel so sad to think about that you know, I suppose it will change. It will not be as we know it, but I just felt like I've been writing a film for a while, and how I work is normally I have lots of ideas, different ideas, and then they kind of start to roll together a bit like a snowball, and then they kind of become something, and then they become the body of the snowman, if you like. And then got to find the coal. Who has coal?
Carrot.
Who has coal?
Carrot.
Nobody has coal.
No.
Nobody has coal. People have carrots.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I've been working on this idea for a while. And actually last year I was feeling just like, who's got money for films? Everyone wants TV. And I was just pretty much also very focused on, home, really, just very much focused on home and what was going on at home, and just being available to everyone, which I feel like was kind of what needed to happen, just because everything was so uncertain. Just need to kind of be a focus of consistency and sort of solidity, and just mash a lot of potatoes, but that was, I was able to do that, which I'm very grateful for. But then I started thinking about work again, and was thinking, should I even write that film? I just, like, is there any point? But then I was so heartened because I recently went on a kind of big conference like a writer's thing, where you go and people in the industry talk about things, and you're just the little kind of box on the screen. And I just went to one. A friend of mine who's a writer invited me, and it was great. I loved it. And then you kind of scroll down, and then you see people and you're like, oh, hello, and you can have a little chat. I mean, it's lovely. Like, yeah, it was kind of like it was supposedly a kind of Zoom network thing, but it was just really heartening to hear that even though it's not cinema as we may have previously experienced it, people still are commissioning single dramas or movies. Yeah. In just the same way, except probably not for cinema release, which is the really sad thing, that these companies are not budgeting for big cinema release. They are funding and creating cinema. Maybe you've got a little one screen opening night, but we're not talking about multi-cinema, multi-screen. So that was sad and good at the same time. So I just thought, well, in which case it's probably worth trying to keep writing, because they are still, there is still money out there for it.
And are you allowed to tell me anything, like the subject or anything, or are you just keeping it?
I think that would be a mistake, because I always make that mistake, except to say that it's a comedy, it's a comedy that's based in, just based in characters. It's sort of, it's a bit offbeat. I pitched it to a producer a while ago just to feel her out. She said it sounds a bit Charlie Kaufman, so that was quite a compliment that I took.
Wow,
I liked.
Yeah.
Writing. Yeah, I know. But as soon as I promise you, if you're interested, as soon as it's actually, in a packageable and explainable form, I promise that I will package it and explain it to you, because I'm kind of in love with the characters and the idea. So I kind of
I'm intrigued.
And now I'm well, I'm looking forward to talking about it, but I feel like I've made that mistake before. I talk about things and then people go, oh, you're doing that, and then I've developed things that don't happen, and then I've talked about them, and then I just feel like an idiot. So I'm not going to talk about it, because I don't know if it's definitely going to happen or not. I'm just trying to
text me when it's right, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, well, if something actually happens, then I'll tell you about it. But I've got a couple of irons in the fire, developing some things with some friends that I really like. And I've been chatting to Simon, because he's got a production company now. So maybe I really hope that he and I can do something.
Well, he posted on Instagram the other day, so he's now joined Instagram. Everyone keeps telling him to, and he's just joined. And
I know.
He put a picture up of you and him talking like me and you
now. He took a picture of me on Zoom. It was so sweet.
And everyone was like, oh my God. Like, the response was huge.
Wow, that's amazing. And I really would like to
a nice tease. I'm sure there's some.
I'd like to be on screen with him again. I'd like to have some fun.
Yeah.
Basically. That's all I want.
Yeah.
I just want to have a bit of fun. That's all I've ever wanted.
Then we'll do
it. That's all I've ever wanted.
Make the Goonies too.
Oh man, no, we can't, because that's the Goonies 2. We can't make we're not allowed to make the Goonies
No.
2. We're not allowed. But we could make,
a homage.
An homage. Well,
That's
just something as fun.
Yeah, of course.
But, yeah, definitely up for fun. Yeah, but I'm feeling kind of heartened in terms of actually writing and developing things. And
you've got a pencil in your hand now. Finish writing that script. Finish writing the film. Make sure it's done. It's your homework.
Yeah, that's my homework. Get it done. Yeah. And then but I'm definitely up for it. And I feel like I think it'd be nice to do something fun, I think.
Yeah.
Without it being too fluffy, but I can't help but kind of go slightly to the dark side anyway. But I think I just love writing characters, so that's really what I'm focusing on, and actually doing it, because I'm a bit of a procrastinator, as we all are, aren't we?
Yeah. I mean, most of my interviews have a bit of a structure where I have a few certain questions I want to cover off and a few topics. And to be honest, today it's just been like catching up with an old friend, just chatting away. And there's one point that I want to make that I watched There She Goes, and watching you and David Tennant on the screen together was incredible. And I've watched recently a series of his, Des, on ITV.
Oh my God, isn't he amazing?
I when it's
so
anything
good
on ITV, I'm always like, I don't want to watch that. It's not gonna be very. It's not. I just can't be arsed.
Yeah.
And I watched it, and it first made me want to start smoking, because every scene they're smoking all the way through. I was like, oh my God, like, is this
Jason
like
Watkins as well?
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
But David was incredible from start to finish on that, and to see him on screen with you, I was like, oh, this is great. Like they are. You've got chemistry, I thought, I bet she's having a great time. The subject matter is a lot more serious, but the response from people and the parents of people with learning difficulties and children, you couldn't have been more proud. Like the way they spoke, and what I've read on IMDb, and people have said, like, I'm a parent of someone that's got a child with learning difficulties or is disabled, and the way you approach that subject matter and do it with so much care is why you've got your BAFTA, why you've got all the awards, why everyone is saying
that's such a lovely thing.
I
was so pleased to be put in touch, like, because of that show. I felt like I got in contact with some amazing people who contacted me, and I there was it's been so hard for people, and I like this lockdown, it's just been so hard, and there's been so many services that have been just stopped, and particularly in the first lockdown. I think that hopefully they learned from their mistakes, but like in terms of withdrawing the support that these parents need, it's just been too much, and but I've been really lucky enough to get involved with a brilliant charity called Soundabout, and I did their Christmas concert, which is basically hearing all these children and the choirs that they work with sing all these amazing Christmas songs. And she said that since lockdown started, because this need for parents isolating with children with severe learning disabilities and physical disabilities has just absolutely gone exponential. Like they've increased their viewing base by 3 times, and 3 times more people are now logging on and using their services, their Soundabout services, and logging on to music sessions in the morning and music sessions in the evening that are tailored to children, and just having something to kind of hang your day around, and feeling like you're part of a community of people who are there to kind of engage you and your child in fun kind of musical activities has been a lifesaver. And so to kind of meet people who are doing that kind of work, and meet the kind of people who are engaged, and meet the children who are getting involved in that, it's been like so lovely and rewarding to be kind of invited to be part of that community. And that was like such a lovely highlight of Christmas, is just being at that Christmas concert, online obviously, but you sort of just think, maybe we'll all be getting together in the real, and isn't that going to be great?
Celebration.
Yeah, but it was great, that show, and isn't it amazing how David Tennant is worryingly how good he does is evil.
Yeah,
makes you think, doesn't it?
It's terrifying, and I'm like,
terrifying.
At the end of the episodes, there was like a little documentary, and it was him talking about the real Des, he looked like him, he sounded like him, every mannerism,
Yeah.
every movement. I was like,
Yeah.
you're more than just Doctor Who. You are incredible, you know?
Yeah. He's such a great person to work with. He's
Yeah.
just amazing. And he's just got a brilliant, very, very, very dry sense of humor, which is just so like razor sharp. It's just brilliant working with him. It was quite a tight schedule, that, because again, like a lot of TV, it's, you don't have like loads of time, but
Yeah.
it was just, it was a really good team, that, and with the writer Sean and Sarah, who are like just amazing, just also really, really kind of, a lot of what's in the show is very much their kind of world, and they're really into quizzes. I love that they're into quizzes and really into, I felt really bad. I did mention it to Sarah on some Zoom interview once. I don't know what she thought of me. I felt like I was kind of trying to impress her, but I don't know. But I admitted there were loads of Game of Thrones references in the series, and I felt so like a fraud, a fraud of a TV nerd, that I only watched Game of Thrones until the first lockdown. I'm going to come out there. I'm telling you the truth. And I sat down with my son and my daughter, who were both then old enough, like 17 and 21, and beginning of the first lockdown, I was like, right, we're going in. And we literally watched we just watched Game of Thrones in one long continuous binge for about 2 months. It took us like 2 months, and we were like, then sometimes someone might want a night off. And because we were in lockdown, we were just like, what do you mean? What do you mean a night off? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? We're watching Game of Thrones. There's no debate. This is going to happen. And so I finally watched Game of Thrones and was able to really witness its brilliance. And then I got retrospectively references that Sarah had written in the show that I was supposed to know about, because I was supposed to be this really cool, geeky mum.
Yeah.
And then I was laughing along, like saying these references like I knew what they were, and I absolutely didn't. And then I was able to admit later on, I was saying, Sarah, I just got to admit to you that I hadn't actually seen Game of Thrones until. She didn't really respond. I think she didn't care.
That's it now. You'll never work again with her. That's it.
Take that BAFTA away. They're going to take that BAFTA away. That's for sure.
Sure.
BAFTA. Can't have it. You can't have it back. You can't have it back. I'm not giving it up.
Don't.
But yeah, I felt very lucky to have that, because I was literally thinking, we are so lucky to have Game of Thrones right now, because maybe other people were rewatching it, but we were all three of us watching it for the first time together, and so it was magic, actually. And my male daughter, she's just 18 actually this month. She is like an avid TV watcher. She's so she's into everything and watches so much, and is just a reader, and she loves it all. She loves it all, and she's very sort of discerning, and she's got good insight, and she just was so disappointed with the last series. She was like, that's it. She became a complete GOT nerd. It was like, it's all over now, B. She said, I can't forgive it. It's just like, don't even get me started. She was like,
it felt very
yeah, but I didn't mind it. There was lots to talk about.
Obviously we can't ignore it. We've talked and touched a bit upon it, but with COVID, have you just spent a lot more time with the family at home, just not worrying about work too much, and just doing those things that you've been putting off doing, spending quality times, binging TV with the family while the kids are around, and just enjoying what matters?
Yeah, pretty much. I've been trying to do that as much as possible, and also really try to think about moving forward as well, because my daughter's she's going to be off to uni, and we've all got to now move into the new normal, whatever that is. And there's a lot of people who've been through incredible, both physical, emotional, and financial struggles. And there's going to be a lot of people who need a lot of support and love and humanity. And so I suppose I'm just talking to my kids about like actually the most important thing right now is to be really aware of your humanity and to let that lead you in all situations. Like you wake up in the morning and think about what you can do for other people, you know, how you can serve other people, how you can help other people in any way, you know, and like let that guide you, because we're going to really need to be really kind to each other in the next few years, because, you know, people are going to need that. And there's certainly too much of the other stuff. So yeah. I think that's really where I've ended up, is just feeling that has to be your guiding light in life, you know, just what can I do for other people? How can I help in any way? How can I be, you know, there for somebody who needs me? How can I be there for, you know, either in my immediate family or my wider community or my wider society, you know, and just I think we all have to kind of do it for ourselves right now until, you know, they sort themselves out, because it's really just got to be about that. And I think it's good, because I think that, you know, the more you worry about you, then you know, that the more unhappy you feel. I think the main thing is, if you think about other people, it's just that immediately rewarding to think, you know, I'm just engaged with the act of trying to be there for other people or help other people is in itself rewarding. And then you're reminded, you know, when other people are humane towards you, then you can be humane towards them, you know. And you can be reminded, oh right, yeah, this is what it feels like to be kind. you know, oh yeah, remember, this is what human being is about, being kind and nice and considerate and careful and thoughtful and generous.
You
know, remember guys, you know, that's what we are.
Better go and see and check on him.
I think we all need, you know, and like I think if we let that be our kind of guiding light, then hopefully we'll come, you know, blinking out into some kind of new dawn at some point in the next few years. But you know, it's been a struggle, I think, for so many people. I wouldn't even know where to start. I mean,
no.
You know, I mean, that's a different podcast, isn't it?
Yeah.
I tell you, Blind Boy's pretty good for that. I mean, he likes to get right in there, you know.
Well, we'll do another special on that. I think
putting the world to rights.
Yeah, you need to do a podcast. I know we mentioned at the start, but you need to do a podcast. I will edit it for you. I'll do it for free. I'll do it all. But you need to talk on subjects, because you're great, and I think people would love it. But I know it's time, and you'd have to take breaks. But
Mark, you're so sweet.
Do it. Honestly.
Well, I was thinking, you know, me and my husband would talk about it because we have good chats, and I was thinking, maybe we should do it and just chat about something, because we always take all kinds of, we just talk about all kinds of things. And I think actually that's the thing, isn't it? I'm trying to help you know, I think that's been one of the main things I've been trying to do, is just make sure everyone stays engaged, like mentally, you know, in terms of what's happening, you know, because you can just go down so many people are just going down these weird rabbit holes. I've had friends calling up, and, you know, suddenly, you know, for a minute, for a fleeting moment, they're talking and you're thinking, are they talking about QAnon conspiracy? And you're like, oh dear. And I've had to say, are you okay?
Are you all right? Take a minute.
Well, you know, I mean, such and such and so and so. It's like, no. I mean, I'm not contradicting you. I'm just saying, are you okay? You know, like, are you okay? You know, and I think we all need to be reminded of just, you know, we all need to make sure everyone's okay. I said, you know, you've got a beautiful brain. You know, don't waste it. You know, don't waste it.
Well, you coming off social media, you're missing a lot of people that aren't being very caring to their brains at the moment, and it's nice to come off and just be refreshed and have a normal conversation. And
I would totally advocate for it. I mean, I'm a bore about it, you know, and I don't care, you know, maybe I'm just a bore about it, but I would really advocate for it. I just think it's a really good idea. It's harder, you know. It still doesn't mean I don't go in for my little YouTubes, my little YouTube videos, which I really you know, enjoy. Just mainly just people building cabins in the woods, you know. That's my main that's my I love it, you know, because it's quite sort of, you know, heartening watching that. But so it's not like I'm completely pure and not on my phone,
offline completely.
But yeah, maybe I should have a go at a podcast. Maybe you're right. I mean, I don't know.
let it be a thought that sits in your head for a bit. Have a conversation with the husband again. Start thinking,
Yeah.
should we do it? Should we not? Should we give it a go?
It'd be great to talk to people, though, wouldn't it? I mean, I guess, is that sort of what you get from it? Because you just get a good old chat.
This isn't.
It's very.
I'm not working.
I like that your little picture of tulips in the background. It's
exactly.
Very,
my dog by me asleep.
Very arty, very lovely environment there.
It's what it's all about. It's just I'm literally catching up with a friend, and then the world can listen to that conversation.
Yeah.
I've made that.
What would you recommend? What podcast would you recommend? Who would you rate?
Louis Theroux.
Oh, I haven't heard his. Are they really good?
Yeah, it's like an episode you'd want to watch, but you can just have it in your ears. He's amazing.
Right.
Obviously Adam from Adam and Joe, Adam Buxton.
Yeah, Adam Buxton, yeah.
The god.
Yes.
Let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. I will. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. I guess
the technical stuff's the bit that will put you off. So if I'll do all that for you, you'll be like, okay, I've recorded and I'll edit it and polish it. Sound like $1 million.
What's the thing that would put me off?
All the technical stuff like editing and recording.
Yeah, I wouldn't really want to edit it. I would want it to just put it up as it is, but no, it have to be edited, I guess. Well, thank you.
Have a think.
I will have a think. I will. Anyway, it's lovely to talk to you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you. I missed you, and let's talk again soon.
Yeah, let's talk again soon. Loads of love.
Great rest of the day, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
So there it is. There's my interview with me and the absolutely amazing Jessica Hynes. And as I said at the start of today's interview, she's someone that I respect and admire more than anybody. I'm so glad she got to come back on the podcast, and it was an absolute pleasure and delight to have her back on. A better audio quality, a longer interview, more in depth, and everything that I could have ever dreamed of. So a massive thanks to Jess for taking the time out to come on the podcast. And hey, you even got a slight teaser that maybe one day she'll have her own podcast, so you heard it here first. And I honestly, after listening to today's interview, think she would have an absolutely amazing career in podcasting. She's such an amazing, delightful guest to have on, and so easy to listen to, and has so many stories, and is just one of those people that you just want to hear more and more from. And who knows, we might get her back on Mark and Me in the near future. I want to say a massive thank you as well to everyone that's tuned into today and listened to this podcast. And if you love it, please get on social media, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, you know the score by now, and share it. It costs absolutely nothing to share. You can retweet or you can share it on your Facebook page, and it makes such a huge difference. It means it introduces a whole new audience, gets people that maybe don't know about the podcast to then know about the podcast, and hopefully they'll invest their time, check out some episodes, and stick around for the future. If you really love the podcast and you want to support me, I do have a Patreon page set up. This is on markandme.com. There's a link on there, and you can support me for as little as £1 a month. For that, you're getting a minimum of 2 episodes a week. That's right, every Wednesday, every Saturday, I'm giving you a brand new slice of the Mark and Me podcast. But as well as that, I'm giving away Blu-rays, DVDs, t-shirts, and thanks to the amazing guys at Vice Press, they're giving me some of the best posters out there. And at the moment, if you stay tuned on my social media channel over the next few days, I'm going to be giving away some incredible Shaun of the Dead prints. Honestly, they're absolutely gorgeous, so stick around for that. As I've said, I'll be around twice a week at the moment with a brand new episode, so things really are full on. So I'll be back on Wednesday with a brand new episode. But again, I want to thank you all for taking the time to listen today. I hope you loved the interview with Jess as much as I did. Thanks again to Jess, thanks again to you guys at home, and I'll speak to you all again in just a few days' time.
I love you, Daisy Duke.
I love you too, Boss Hog.
I can't hear you.
I love you too, Boss Hog.